Hi, in today's video we're going to talk about installing an externally mounted audio jack on your NuTone Intercom Master Station. Now I already have done a video about this, and it explains about the jack and how to actually install one on your master station. And in that video I show it being installed in an IM4406 master station. Today's video is going to be a little different. I'm going to show you how you can utilize this on a much older intercom system. The video about installing the audio jack, along with the video that shows how to use a Bluetooth receiver once you've installed the audio jack, are two most popular videos on our YouTube channel, but it really addresses how to do it on a more modern intercom system. The IMA4406 that's in that video would be vintage 2004 or so, and I have been contacted by people that want to do the same type of thing on an older intercom system, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So this is the subject of it, and we're going to install it on a system that was made in the 70s. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that is. What we have here is a NuTone solid-state music intercom model 2064. This particular 2064 was made in 1972, and back in those days this would have been the entry-level, perhaps builder model 3-wire intercom system of the day. It does have both AM and FM radio, and on the selector switch here you see you have AM and FM, but in the center it has a position for phono, which is phonograph. And back in those days, NuTone still made in-wall fold-down record players, and if you bought that option, there would be audio cabling that would run inside the walls between the record player and the master station, and then you could play records throughout your house, which was pretty cool in 1972. In today's world, nobody plays records anymore, but people certainly want to be able to plug in their smartphone, or if you still have an iPad, or perhaps satellite radio, or a CD player, or some other external audio device. And like all NuTone intercom systems, going all the way back to the original models, the 2011 and 2012, back in the 50s, there's always an auxiliary input jack, at least one. Some models have two, but there's always at least one. On this 2064, and this would apply also to similar models, which would include the 2090 and the 2091 and the 2540 and the 2541. Anything made in this time, the 2561, 62, it all applies. So what NuTone did to make it convenient for people is, if you didn't buy the record player option, which would be built in the wall here next to the unit, and the audio cables are all concealed inside the wall, they also gave you an audio jack that was accessible here on the bottom of the faceplate. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down on its back so you can see what that looks like. So right here on the bottom of the edge of the faceplate, there's a round hole in the plastic, and this is the way it came from NuTone when it was brand new. And up inside the hole here is an audio input jack, and this would be the jack that you could plug into an external audio source. I'm not sure in 1972 what other types of audio sources someone might have. I suppose it could have been a reel-to-reel tape player, or perhaps an 8-track player, not sure exactly. Anyway, but this is right here, and this is an RCA. So yes, this can be used to plug in an iPod or your smartphone or satellite radio, while the input is designed for a phonograph primarily, and it may not be the world's perfect match to a modern device like a smartphone. It is certainly good enough for what you want to use this for. The problem with using this is it gets rather messy when you try to use it, and I'm going to show you an example of what you would have to do. I want to be able to stand this back up because I need a little more room here, so I'm going to show you this first. This is, see if you can see that, this is an old school RCA plug-in. This is the type of connector that's designed to go in that plug. This socket is not designed for a modern, this is a 1/8 inch stereo plug. This is what everybody's used to seeing This is the type of connector that's on the end of your earbuds that you plug into your iPhone. This is not designed to plug into this. It's not the proper fit. There's no ground connection. It doesn't work when you try to do that. You have to use an RCA plug like this. So let me show you what you would have to do if you want to plug into this and plug it into your smartphone. So what we have here are the cables that you would need to plug in, to be able to plug in your smartphone into the jack on the bottom of the 2064. What we have here is a 6-foot long 1/8 inch stereo to right and left channel RCA plugs. This one happens to be 6 feet long. And what you have to remember is your iPhone, any smartphone, your iPod, a CD player, your satellite radio, all of those devices are stereo devices. They have right and left channels. Well, NuTone Intercom systems, except for a very, very few rare exceptions, are monaural systems, which means you don't have 2 speakers in each room, you only have 1, and the right and the left channels are combined together and they play together through a single speaker in each room. So to be able to use a cable like this, if you were to just plug in one of these ends into the jack on the bottom of the 2064, you would be getting only the right channel or the left channel. You would be missing half of the music, and that makes it sound kind of weird. So what you have to do is you have to use one of these. This is a stereo, 2 ends on this end, to mono cable adapter. And this mixes the right and the left in the cable, and it all comes out together in a mono signal at this end. So the way you would do this is you would use your 6-foot cable, you would plug the Y cable into the RCA plugs on the end. Now it's mixing the right and left channels into a monaural channel, and that can be plugged into the jack on the bottom of the 2064, and that will work perfectly fine. The problem with this type of setup is you've got this horribly ugly cable, the adapter cable, and then this long 6-foot cable, and it's going to be hanging out of the bottom of the intercom, and it's got to drape over to something where you're plugging it into your phone or something like that. And it's all pretty unsightly and not very well done. I suppose in 1972 it would have been okay, but in 2016 it's not going to pass in most houses. So let me show you a better way to do this. Alright, so I flipped the 2064 around, so we're looking at the back of it, and what you're seeing here is the RCA socket that we plugged the cable adapter into in the previous shot. And just so you can see, right here is the round hole in the faceplate, and if you watch carefully you should be able to see the red end of the screwdriver come through the hole. Okay, so now I'm going to plug the cable in to show you how it would be if you left it just standard. So here's our Y cable adapter, and I'm putting it through the hole and plugging it into the RCA socket. So there it is. That's the standard connection. Fortunately, NuTone was smart and clever about how these kinds of sets were designed, and this RCA socket is movable. So as it is right now, and this is the original factory default way that this would have come out of the box, this can be relocated so you can use it internally and not have to pass a cable through the hole in the faceplate. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to zoom out just a little, or perhaps in a little more is better. Alright, so now we have a closer shot. So here's the RCA socket, and it's mounted to this metal bracket, and this metal bracket is held onto the chassis with this screw. This is a 1/4 inch head screw, and it's also slotted, but the slots in these usually are poorly done. So what you really should have is a 1/4 inch, where is it? 1/4 inch nut driver. Too hard to see. Trust me, that's what it is. Alright, so if you loosen the screw, with the nut driver. Take it out. You can take the bracket with the RCA socket on it and lift it out of its position. And of course, like all things NuTone, they could have made the wires a little longer, but they didn't. So what are you going to do? But they're just usually barely long enough, barely being the key word, to swing it around and it's going to fight me, it looks like. Let's see if we can make a little more room in here. Alright, we'll move some of the other wires out of the way. And I leave this part in the video. Here, let's try this. Alright, that might be a little easier for you to see. I leave these, what I call the struggling bits of the video in to let you know that no matter who's doing this, it's never as simple as you would think. Alright, so there it is. Now it's relocated. And when you relocate it, if you look down here in the original position on the chassis, there's a large round hole and a small hole, which is where the screw goes. And if you look over here on the chassis, there's a large round hole and a small hole for the screw. On the bottom of the bracket that holds the RCA socket, there's a small hole for the screw, and there's a little bent over tab right here. The bent over tab goes in the big hole, and the screw is going to go through the small hole into the chassis. So we're going to move it around like this, and we're going to take our screw and see if we can get it started here. Alright, and we'll use our nut driver, and it didn't grab. Alright, that's better. Now that it's started, we'll use the nut driver, and of course it came loose again. So let's try it another time. This is the problem when the slot in the screw isn't very deep. It's hard to get the flat screwdriver to bite into it. It also doesn't help that I'm standing off to the side instead of right in front of it. Alright, so once the screw starts to thread in, it becomes a little easier to tighten up, and there we have it. Alright, so now the bracket has been attached to the chassis and it's facing to the left instead of down through the hole. This is how the bracket would have been changed. Its position would have been changed from here to here if the original installation had included the phonograph, because now if the cable comes out of the wall, it can be routed around and plugged right into here, which is what we're going to do with our externally mounted audio input jack. Okay, so we have our custom made stereo to mono externally mounted audio input jack. And I'm not actually going to drill a hole in the faceplate of this 2064 because this is one of the ones that's in my stock, and I don't know where the faceplate may end up one day, and I don't want to make an extraneous hole in it just for the video. But I will link in the first video that shows how to drill the hole and mount the jack. So we're just going to pretend, to make it a little bit easier, you can choose any spot in the perimeter of the faceplate to mount the jack, as long as there's enough room to accommodate it. And in an early model like this, there's lots of extra room inside, so it's really not much of a problem. In this case, we're going to pretend that it gets mounted right here on the lower left-hand corner, which is one of my favorite spots to put an audio jack. So I'm just going to hold that in place and pretend it's actually bolted to the faceplate. And after you do this on your system, all you have to do is take the cable, route it around, and plug it into the RCA jack. Now on a model like this that has mechanical tuning drums, you have to make sure that you keep the cable away from the tuning drums, because when you tune the stations, these rotate and you don't want the audio cable to get caught up in all of that. So you might want to take it and sort of fold it down this way to keep it out of the way. You can do the same thing that NuTone did when they built this, which is, I guess they didn't have nylon wire ties in 1972. So here what we have are little twist ties like you get at the grocery store in the produce department, and that's how they held wires in place in 1972. You can do the same thing. You can get some twist ties from your trash bags or swipe them from your local grocery store produce department, and you could put a twist tie here and twist the audio cable to this wire that runs under here. You could take it over here and you could put one through the hole for the tab of the original bracket location, twist around. What you want to do is just sort of secure it so it's out of the way and it doesn't get caught up on anything. So that's how you would install a concealed audio input jack on a 2064 or a 2091 or a 2540 or almost any model made prior to, say, 1975. So they all have these type of jacks. They're all adjustable as far as I can remember, and this will make it more convenient. So I'll link in the video that shows how to actually mount the jack through the plastic faceplate, and I'll link in the video that shows how to use a Bluetooth receiver with it. I hope you found this video to be interesting and helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps raise our search rankings on YouTube so more people find our videos and we can help them also. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.